Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Everyone is a special guest, as you know, to me. But this is a special guest because I was actually going to give credit. This was my first, boss in my big boy job post-college. You know what I'm saying? So he's seen me come a long way. We can talk about that too. But, so I have on the podcast Rashad Harris, who we did work together at a school called Alternative Paths Training School, APTS for short. It was my first job out of undergrad. So you can imagine the growth that your boy has seen since then. But one of the things that attracted, one of the things that we shared was that Rashad was a great first boss for me. One of the ways I say that is because we had a very tough job, which we're going to go into. But his sense of humor, particularly dealing with me in room 204, was it 204? Yes. Yeah. Room 204 was quite unique, but being able to go through difficult situations and still maintain joy and smile and laugh and find humor, and I would say in stories that when we share to other people, I don't think they find it as funny as we do. So definitely with the message of the Positive Philter about turning things lemons into lemonade and looking at the silver linings of situations, I think Rashad would have been a great guest. But before we go into this, Rashad, go ahead and share with listeners a little bit about yourself.
Rashad Harris. I worked at APTS where Phil and I first started working together. I worked there for 12 years. I left there and I'm currently working as a ABA resource teacher in Fairfax County. I'm from Northern Virginia, even though I went to high school in Maryland.
I was about to call you out too. I knew that. I knew some fact checks. I got my fact check ready too. I was like, what? No, you didn't. Yeah,
I moved to Maryland for my 8th grade year. Still went to GW, George Washington Middle School, for my 8th grade. Then went to high school in Maryland. Then went to Charlotte, North Carolina to play football at Johnson C. Smith. Yeah. I stayed there for a few years and came back.
Which is funny because overlap, your boy knows everybody, which is small world. One is my grandfather went to Johnson C. Smith, which I told you, even though I did not follow his footsteps and pledge Kappa like he did, he was there. And, my boy, frat brother, LeVar Clune, correct?
Yes.
So it's small world. Shout out to LeVar. I just felt like randomly saying his name, LeVar. Now, so we definitely shared a very difficult job, which was, and you said it earlier, for the listeners that don't know, what does ABA training stand for? Applied behavior.
Yes. Applied behavior analysis.
Yes. So with that being said, you work with very, challenging students on the spectrum that have, cognitive disabilities. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so that's been very challenging. So can you give a listeners, before we talk about having that sense of humor and that, how did you get into that work? How did that fall into that career?
It was funny. I actually fell into the job. I started in 2002 in this field. My senior year in college, had played football. Football was my job for as long as I can remember. I think I started playing football at 6. And it was coming to the end. I had pretty much lost the love to play football. And I kind of coasted through the last 2 years. So I knew I wasn't going anywhere with it. Ooh. And it comes to a point when anybody puts so much time into something, when you start seeing it come to an end and that's all you know, it's like, what am I going to do? So a friend of mine, our friend, Pete Lacey, may rest in peace. Another friend of ours, we're working at a group home and they were like, hey man, you should come do this.
Because you was big?
Huh?
I mean, how group on why? Because they wanted big. I mean, you're not on the screen, but this man is a monster. I mean, you're a lineman. They just like how did they did they say you already doing volunteering with kids? Like
no, they didn't know me.
Okay.
They didn't know me, and like I said, it's funny, for as long as I can remember, every job up until the one I have now, because these are my only two real jobs. It's like Pete would go, and then I'd kind of come behind it.
Yes.
It was one of those where we like him, so why don't you come in? And I went in for an interview, and it was a group home for adults. I was the youngest person in the house. I think it was the oldest person was 65.
Oh my goodness.
and it was multiple diagnoses. So we had autism, had split personality, you name it, I had it. And it's actually a funny story. When I first got the job, my very first day, I think the first week, I had to keep going into the kitchen because when I'd see him, I'd start laughing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't just laugh in the face. So I would constantly go in the kitchen and have to gather myself and then come back. But I mean, that's how I got into it. Started doing that. And I found that it was one of those situations where I liked what I was doing. I was good at it. I mean, being big helped a lot because if one of those grown men started acting up, Rashad, go get him.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. And then I think I was there for 7 years. Then I started getting homesick because I was living in Charlotte at the time.
I was about to say, okay, so this group home was in Charlotte.
Yes, was in Charlotte. And it was one of those situations where because I lived in Charlotte, worked at a group home, single man, I wasn't going home a lot for holidays. So I wasn't seeing my family. And it was one of those where I started getting homesick, like I've been here for 10 years. I think it's time for me to go ahead and go back home.
Ooh.
So that's when I got a call about the job for APTS and did a mini interview over the phone, then went there. And the funny thing is when I went there, the interview they gave me and the way I saw the school was totally different than what the school was.
Yeah.
When I went in there, it was during the break, so all the kids were gone, and the ones who were there were the good ones.
Don't tell me it's like they had like the model students, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And you go in the room and the kids is actually like putting the blocks together. It was like, you'll just be supporting me.
It was a perfect time. So I'm looking, I'm like, oh, this will be a piece of cake.
Yes.
I mean, even the kids who I'd later learn were the ones who'd have a lot of the behaviors. I walked in there and they were, hi, Mr. Harris. I'm saying the name, do all that. So I was like, this will be fine. And I mean, that's how I got an ABTS.
Got him.
got me. I knew it was like, this is going to be an easy job, man.
So when was that? So when was the date when you started that?
February 5th.
I mean, what year?
Let's see, February, I think 2007.
Oh, wow. So and that's the overlap because I joined in 2008.
Yeah.
So, wow, that gap. Because did you start off as a behavior facilitator like me?
Yeah.
You already started off higher. So you made progress already within that first year.
I got lucky because when I went there, it was in transition. When I first got there, they had like 4 or 5 managers, and they all left. And right around that time, the person was going to be in front of me who was going to get it because I wasn't even going to apply for the position. At first, they asked me to be a team leader, but they weren't paying anybody. I was like, I'm not going to be a team leader to have all these extra responsibilities if you're not going to pay me. So I was the catalyst for them to start that position and start paying people for that position. Because at first it was just, hey, we need you to be in these rooms. We get this responsibility. We're not going to pay you, but you may get a perk here and a perk there. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I think within 6 months, I was a team leader, and then everybody else left. And then within a year, I was a program manager, which it was called then came back to being that.
Yeah, I can't remember the titles, but I just remember you as the boss man checking in on us. And so, just to describe, and I've alluded to this randomly. I mean, this has been a really instrumental part in my professionalism because it was an extremely tough job. and I think it shaped my love for education in somewhat, but it was also my escape pod. Like I got to go to grad school, so get out of here. So can you, just for the listeners, as you were developing, the difference between the group home and the school for children with special needs, that was very challenging. How did you know, like you said it earlier about going in the bathroom, like how did you know, like, man, this is kind of funny, but at the same time I gotta be serious, like, you know what I'm saying?
It was one of those where you learn by observation. I was like, I'd go in there and I'd watch people who were there, who had been there, and the ones who lasted, the ones who didn't. The ones who and I think a lot of that it shaped me into my career now.
Yes.
And so and you learn to be flexible. And I think that was one of the things was, one, I always learned I want to treat them with respect. So I'm not going to laugh in your face if you're doing something, or I'm not going to show that emotion. That's one of the things I learned in football. You don't show emotion. Yeah. You don't show when you hurt. None of that stuff. So I'm gonna have a poker face on the entire time.
Okay.
So I'd step away and do that. But I learned that you had to have that balance of, when it's time to be serious, I'll be serious. But when it's not, I'm going to try to have everything be light. But that's just me in my personal life. I try to keep everything light because I don't like anything. I don't like tense situations. So I'm that person. If there's something going on, I'll make a joke to try to, take the intensity out of the room.
I know. I remember, and I think about that with football. Like you said, that's great preparation, because I know they're talking mad trash, and there's so many. I know, especially as a lineman, you in the trenches, you probably hear You hear so many comments.
Oh,
yeah, they can't mic you up.
You name it, I probably said it. Had it said to me. I've been in fist fights within plays. I've had fingers in my eyes. I've had fingers in places they shouldn't go. In POW. So it's one of those where you learn. Sports does teach you a lot, and I think I learned a lot from sports, do's and don'ts. And I think I was able to take a lot of that stuff with me as I progressed in life.
So, you definitely said it earlier that you have like this like poker face and mantra, and like you go through and you like switch it on and off, right? For the listeners, and this is always a learning experience, right? How do you, when you are able to turn it on and off, like how do you have cues? Like you said, for you, a cue was like, go in the bathroom, like that location of the bathroom, laugh, or not the bathroom, the kitchen, laugh in the kitchen. So that kind of triggers your brain. What was some other ways that you'd be like, yo, okay, I gotta get serious? Like, that's, for instance, do you have to talk to yourself before, like, remember we had those rooms, those padded rooms that, did you have to like kind of talk to yourself? Like, okay, like wipe your face, go serious. Like, how do you talk to yourself? How do you do that? How do you switch it on?
A lot of it was basically, like I said before, a lot of it was the observational part. How people who I've seen, managers who I had in ABTS before, how would they handle situations? And just in my other job, if one of the clients were coming in, they were having a big behavior, this person would freak out and the situation would get worse. This person will come in and kind of be calm, and it'll kind of work itself out. For me, to answer your question, and sorry if I get a little long-winded.
Who cares?
But to answer your question, it was a trigger for me. It was always, where am I? Like if I knew if I came in the room with you guys, you could always tell. I always knew how I needed to come in based on when I opened that door, how you guys reacted to me. So if it's one of, even if it was something I had to come in and had to talk to you guys about something, the reprimands or anything like that, it was always how I need to read the room and then come in that way. And then it's always a level of respect. I know these people. I know the best way to speak to them. I know the best way to handle this situation with these people here. If I go into a room and I know that you, not you necessarily, but it's the proverbial you, will freak out if something goes on. I know I have to be the calming force to come in. So I'm going to come in no matter what, just even kill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would just go like that. And it was never a real trigger in my brain for what was going on. It was more like a pep talk.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
so it's like, I know if, let's go back to, if I'm getting called to your room, go through a mental Rolodex of, okay, could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this? And then I'll as I'm going, I'll play those out in my head and kind of have answers or how am I going about it in my mind. So when I got there, okay, this is what it is. I've already thought about it going here. And it comes back to the preparation of football. Yeah. I know that I wasn't the best at it, but I'd go and watch tape, know the guy in front of me. He tends to do this, so I'll do this, and this way he does that. But I would work it out, and that was my way because I freaked out all the time in my brain. In all those situations, I'm always freaking out, but I have to keep it under wraps. So a lot of times, and I think that's where the humor came from. Yeah. We're going to talk about it. But a lot of times, that's what the humor will come out because if I don't, I may freak out. So, I got that. Let me use that. That was my, not my poker face, but that was my default.
That was your shield. That was your shield. That was your protective shield. Your coding is humor. I like the two things that have spoken to me was one is that you read the room. So I always learn that lesson. I'm learning it now. You're probably better than me, but like we see, like you switch up your style and know the audience and how to deliver a message. To our room was different to another room and all that. Yep. It's totally different. And then two, you spoke to it, which I think kind of touches upon about the positive well-being. The well-being piece of the positive filter is that a lot of us use humor as a protective shield. And I think even the true resilient people are funny, but it doesn't necessarily, and I think the common misnomer is that if someone is funny or laughing, that one, they're not taking it serious, or two, they're not freaking out inside, right? But that's not necessarily the case, right? It's just the way that you project that, and also how you flip a situation. I think I like to allude to a lot of our favorite comedians have very hard lives. But they're able to express their very difficult lives with humor. One, to protect themselves, two, to convey a message and connect with people. That's how you connect with people. So go back to maybe that mindset. And that was very interesting because I just now is probably the first time I really thought that you would freak out about difficult situations, because I would say to the listeners, you were the guy I looked up to at the job. Like you were doing it and like I said, what was that? 23. I don't know the age gap, but for me, you were,
I'm 40 now, so
okay, you're old as hell. But
well, thank you for that.
Yeah, but the point is I would not have seen that duck with the leg under the water. I wouldn't have known that you were freaking out, or maybe would be freaking out. To me, I was like, man, Rashad, come in this room, walk in, and you come in, you handle business, and then you make fun of us and then leave. So, speak to that. Speak to maybe even how that was maybe a defensive mechanism for you with football and your jobs. Like you are still taking it seriously, but maybe that's presentation.
I mean, my wife will tell you, my whole family is like that. We're the type of people, we'll go to a funeral and find something to laugh at. So that's just how it is. But,
hey, pause real quick. So I give you full permission. One of my dreams is to have everyone in my funeral wearing those T-shirts with me in the sky. So please, Rashad, full permission to do that. And full permission, I'm telling everyone on the podcast, if you go up there and do the eulogy, I give you full permission while I'm in the casket to roast me.
Well, thank you. That would make that a lot easier.
Make it a lot easier. Everyone, they say, would anyone like anything to say about Philip Wilkerson? Everyone, feel free to raise your hand and just start flaming me. No defense. Man, Philip he was such a lovely guy.
Jump up.
Yeah, he was a guy I loved him so much. The dude couldn't get a shape up. the same as life. But go ahead. I love that.
Hey,
I love that.
I can't talk right now. I gotta go get a haircut now. It is bad.
But I love
that. To be honest, hold on. I think I forgot the question.
No, you said family. The family taught you that most.
Oh yeah, the family taught me that. It was for me, and it's funny because my wife and I were talking about this. I've always had to be the strong one, being the middle child. When we were younger, had a lot of, father was a drug addict, mother working three, 4 jobs. So it was me and my sister and my brother. My sister had to be the parent in that situation. So it was up to me to kind of be that in between, because my brother's the baby, so he's acting up, and I had to learn, okay, I got to take care of him. So it'll take the stress off of her, so it'll take stress off my mother. Now, I was still a bad kid and did all types of bad stuff. But I've always had to be the strong one. So when we do have death in the family, I go there. My sister's always, Rashad, I need you to kind of keep me together. When bad things happen, I get called. Hey, come in, and because they say I have a calm personality. But that's where a lot of it came from. I'm always freaking out because I'm naturally the type of person that will freak out. But I've just learned I'll put that on the back burner and I'll freak out later, but I can't do it now because if I do, everybody else will lose it. And that's even worse than me just freaking out. So we talk about APTS, not even coming to you guys' room is like I can be a little more calm. I can be calmer because I knew you guys had it. If you guys were calling me, okay, I'd have to come in and kind of calm the situation down a little bit. But I knew I had backup in there, so I didn't have to. So I could be a little calmer. There was other rooms where I was the backup. I was the first person, second person, third person, fourth person to call. So I had to go in, and you have to play that thing. You have to go in with that face, and because again, if I'm not, everybody else is gonna freak out. So that's usually how I go through it. I go through it that I always tell myself, I have to do it because no one else can.
So your humor was stemmed from protecting and supporting others.
Oh yeah. I use.
Someone would say, "Yo, I need you to," or someone would poke you to say, and that maybe even non-verbally that that you cracking jokes and supporting someone else was helping calm them down.
Yep.
Right.
Because if you think about your room with the guys who are in there, there were times when we'd be in a situation where the kid is flipping out and all hell's breaking loose, and it's me and this guy. And it's like, okay, we're in this. We've been in it for about 45 minutes. It don't look like it's gonna stop anytime soon. And we'll do something where, like, if the kid's fighting or something, I may move my hand just enough for the kid to get up and get a small swipe on the other guy, and then I'll go back, and then I'll give him a look, and we can laugh about it as we're going.
Yes.
And it's one of those of you got to maintain safety, but you have to figure out ways to make things funny. Things will be competition. There was classrooms I'd go into where the staff were looking like, okay, is the kid going to get him today? And that would be the thing. That would be the running gag of it. Well, they'd be rooting for the kid to get me. So I'm in there, I'm talking stuff, and I'm like, hey, y'all see what I'm doing? Y'all couldn't do this if I do it. But it's all about to answer the question. It's all about just maintaining that level of comfortability because I don't want to lose a room. I don't want to lose the people.
Yeah.
In a hard job, if I'm going to make your job harder, that doesn't help anybody. And that was one of the things I would tell people when they first started. Look, this situation, it's a hard job. You're going to get a situation where something's going to happen and it's going to feel like the end of the world. But then you're going to come back and laugh at it. One, because we're going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
But then two, because you looked at it and say, I got through it. I was able to find a way to persevere, and doing that made me a better person. So now I can look back and laugh at it. Now if I'm in it and you're laughing at me, because we do it all the time. If I'm in it and I get hit and I hear y'all laughing in the background, I don't like it, but hey, it's funny.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's how it is. Like you said, it was just a way. It was a way of covering up. I think it was a way of covering up my fears And because I use humor now to cover my deficiencies too. So it's kind of covering things up. It was always like my security blanket, if you will.
I love it. The funny thing is that, Rashad, we're going all kinds of different places, but the quote that you said is one is that, you do it for others. You don't want to leave the people. So I think some of the best leaders some of the best leaders we know, I think I'm just thinking like Martin Luther King. He cracked jokes. Not that many people talk about that persona that he had. But he would fry his friends. He would make fun of people.
Yeah.
He was actually very funny, right? Very humorous. And so you use that to connect with people. And another thing I think that you spoke to that was very interesting and powerful for me to think about it was in the moment, that show was not funny at all. That show was trash.
No.
But if you go back and tell stories, I can tell you about a story where my sweatpants got ripped up. Or that the fact that I was called Mr. Billup for like a year. In the moment, that show's not funny. But like that's stories. Like that's who I like. I still go by Mr. Billup. Like my boys. Like if I call Rob right now, he can say, "What's good, Mr. Billup?" Like we bonded over that. And I think you're right. Like hindsight, I think that's another way of connection. Is humor in hindsight. Like it helps you process resiliency. I think in the moment, a lot of things are very tough and very tragic, whatever. But then when you look at it and then you're like you look at it from the hindsight point of view, it is pretty funny. Like for instance, and another example is like Richard Pryor set himself on fire with crack.
Yep.
Right? That is terrible. That is a terrible situation. But then he made it a whole skit in his stand-up. It's hilarious.
One of the funniest bits.
Yeah. So, I definitely speak to that, like resiliency coming out through humor, or how you can reframe a past situation.
Yeah.
In a funny way.
To go back to one of the things you said before, talking about comedians, a lot of the best comedians have the most tragic backstories, and it's being able to take that pain and make it funny. And I think in those situations, I even do it now in the job I have now. Being able to make people comfortable, that's the biggest thing. Making people comfortable makes people want to do more. They're more willing to go the extra mile if they're comfortable. They know, one, I'm supported, and two, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. No matter how hard the job is, you're willing to do a little bit more to get it done. And it also helps that the person that's making fun of you and the person that is making it funny is right in the trenches with you, because there's a difference between being, hey, I'm gonna laugh at you, but I'm gonna go back to my office, I'm gonna walk away and just let you deal with whatever is going on, as opposed to now we're in the same situation. So you have stories about me just as much as I have about you, because we're both getting it, we're both having to say, and we can both go back and laugh about it because we're dealing with the same thing. It's not funny if you're getting beat up every day and I'm just sitting back watching.
Right.
It's funny to me, but it's not funny to you.
I got you. It's funny. It's like, I was about to ask my next question is like, one is that you said it, you spoke to it about, being in the trenches, but for me, it seems like an integral part of leadership. Like, they always say leadership should be like someone's accountable, a good leader is accountable, right? A good leader would do would not tell someone else to do something that they wouldn't do themselves. But from what I'm hearing in regards to your leadership style, because you've been in a leadership position, that you think that a good component of a leader is maybe having a good sense of humor.
I think so. I think having a good sense of humor, but it's having a good sense of humor, but understanding when and when not to use that sense of humor.
Yeah.
Because again, it goes back to, I can have a good sense of humor, but if nobody sees anything funny, but I'm constantly coming in and making jokes, then you just that corny dude who comes in here like, why are you here? So humor is is a way of life for me.
So you spoke to it. So how does a leader, because you are a leader, you're supervising people, how does a leader find a balance? Because I would think, as I said, you have been one leader where I think about it, like I still think about how you encourage, you shout out your boy and we stayed in touch. You're a good leader for a young person for me starting out. How did you find a balance between being a leader, inserting humor, but also being about business?
One of the greatest things I ever heard was Jimmy Johnson said, I'm going to treat people differently. If you're one of my best workers, I'm going to treat you different than I would treat one of my worst workers. I'm going to give you more leeway than I would the other person. Mm-hmm. And the humor was on different levels.
Yes.
So I knew if I came in here, I can laugh and joke with these people because they know the difference between getting it done and not getting it done. But there was some I wasn't. I go in stoic, straight faced. You need to do this. You need to do this. That's what I want you to do. Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
So it wasn't like I walk into every room and I'm just giggly, jump, like a court jester, just run. Yeah. It was you had to read the room. But for me, using the humor as a management tool, if you will, was again that comfortability. You want to make sure that a person is comfortable and understands what they're doing before you can do all the other stuff. I'm not going to have you come into a situation and then scold you if you didn't do it right. One, if I didn't train you on how to do it.
Right.
And then two, I didn't make sure you knew how to do it. And then three, we didn't go through it together. So I have to be comfortable with you in certain levels to kind of, if that makes sense, in certain levels to the humor where it may be hey, we got that, as opposed to I'll go in and we just go from the whole time. Because with a job like that, like you said, it's not one of those situations where everything is funny.
Yeah, sure.
It may be one of those where it's a really serious situation, but then when you go back and look, maybe a couple of days later, you come back and you look at it, then it's funny.
Yeah.
So it's having that time, and go back to comedians, having that timing of when to be humorous, as opposed to this isn't one of those times. Let's go ahead. This time to be serious. Let's make sure everybody's fine. So it was one of those where the humor is there, but it's still a business. We're still professionals here, and I have to show people and how to be professional within these confinements.
How about what would be your I guess counter argument to the notion that as we get older, we're supposed to be more serious, and that sometimes people that are funny, I don't know, just like there's a stereotype that being funny takes away from, or being funny or cracking jokes take away from competency or actual commitment. Because I've gotten that before where they're like, ain't nothing funny. If you're not funny, leave. And then you're like, all right, but then you like I'm gonna say this for track practice, right? My coach used to always get mad at me. He's like, ain't nothing funny right now. If you want to leave, get out of here. And then we would walk away. He's like, get back on the line and run. And then we were actually good. So I was like this whole thing is a joke, in a funny way, nothing serious, because when it's time to show up, I'm good. So or someone's like, you're not listening. You always cracking jokes, but then they test me, real test, and I knew what I was talking about. I was retaining the information, or doing my job. It's like, just because I'm laughing doesn't mean I'm not doing my job. So what's your counter argument to that?
That would be the first thing that I say. Is the job getting done? Is the job getting done effectively? Now there's a difference between being just being humorous and then being a clown. I always looked at those people who, you look at a class clown, they didn't get anything done. All they did, they would just laugh and joke, and grades were bad. They weren't doing what they needed to do. And people look at them like, okay, you're not doing there's something wrong with you. You need to figure that out. As opposed to, that's what I was when I was younger. Yeah. As opposed to somebody who, like you said, I can come in, I can make a joke about everything in here and seem like I'm not paying attention. But if you come back to me and ask me a question, I can answer every one of your questions, do everything that you're doing better than you can. Yeah. So for me, it's always about, am I retaining the information? Am I able to give it back to you? As a leader, am I able to come in and handle a situation? So if I come in and things the S has hit the fan, am I able to effectively handle the situation and then do it in a way that doesn't make things worse? And I look at that in life. am I going to like, am I able to maintain whatever stability I have? Can I keep a job? Can I be successful at a job? Can I make different moves? Am I able to, I have a family now, so am I able to feed the family, do these things? Am I able to progress in life? Can I progress?
Yeah.
But still keep that humor. Because everybody who knows me will tell you, I'm one of the most immature people you'll probably meet.
Hey, times two. Yeah. That's what it's funny. Yeah.
But I think to answer your question in a very quick fashion is having an on and off switch. If you don't have the on and off switch, then you're just like I said, you go back to just being an adjuster. People only look at you as being that funny person that you can't rely on.
Oh, I mean, like I said, I mean, I know my switch too, and I know that I'm serious. I'm serious about the things I put my energy into.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, too, it's like the balance is like I literally say like nothing is that serious stuff. That's like my mantra. Like nothing is that serious. I mean, life or death. You know, obviously there's things that are really fearful. But I even get like to the root of life and death situations. Have you ever met someone that's like sick, like really sick, and they're still cracking jokes in the hospital?
Yes.
So it's like, how, like, nothing is absolute anyway. Like, nothing is absolutely funny. Nothing is absolutely serious, right? I guess there's a balance. But that's like one of my go-tos. I always think that, like, sometimes I'm like, and I will say that what I'm learning, and I agree with you in that mindset, like, maybe nothing is that serious, but be serious in this, like, instant of a moment, and then we can reflect on it later. So maybe I need to be serious right now. Like, take this seriously right now. But at the end of the day, this is gonna be funny.
Because there were situations where you'd be in a situation and I'd make a joke. You're like, it's not funny. It's not funny right now. And I'm like, you know what? I get it. My bad.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later. And then it was funny later. That's because you're in the moment. You're going through that. I'm not going through it, but you're going through it, or I may be going through it. And it's how you go about that. It's also having compassion. If I'm able to show compassion when it needs to be there, and I'm not making a joke, if I know it's serious, I'm not just trying to make fun of you if you get hit or if something happens. Right in that moment, you're more apt to be comfortable when we do start joking around, because we've been through this together. He knows it's all about respect. He's shown me respect. He's been respectful, so you're a little more comfortable.
Now you have elevated in your career and gone new places, right? Have you noticed, particularly, I think as you progress and get higher, do you think that the humor dissipates? If that makes sense. Like, for instance, like when we're in high school is really funny. It's not that funny. It's not that hard, but it's funny. College, playing football is that funny. Your first job, APTS, but then you become a manager and a president. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Do you feel like that changes, or it's just more like they're better at like turning it off? And I was like, I know Obama got jokes or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it changed. It morphs. It goes into. Oh, my headphones about that. It's less about like the humor's still there, but it is how is it doled out? How do I make this a humorous situation? Take my job now. It's not as loose as it was at APTS. So I have to be different with it. So now it's more about filling out the people who I'm working with, and just using humor as a way of making them comfortable. Where we're not sitting here making jokes back and forth, but I may say something to kind of make them smile, and they're a little more comfortable now. So now when I come in, we can kind of talk more about what's going on, and it's not just, oh man, here it comes. Because of my job, I'm literally that person who I come in maybe once or twice a week, say, hey, you need to do A, B, C, and D. I'll see you next week, or you email me. So it's about coming in and making them comfortable when they know that when I come in, I'm going to do the job, but I'm not going to be that person who's standing over you and telling you what you're not doing, or if I'm telling you what you're not doing, I'm not doing it in a condescending way. It's more. It's all about comfort level. And I think that's like, especially the job now, these people come in and they're looking for me to help them, but help them in a way that doesn't make them feel like less of a person.
Well, I got one more question and we go to my next segment. But my next question, right, is that as you envision, your career, right? And you said making people comfortable and using humor to connect with people. I would say to the young professional, let's say the new person, right? For the orchestra that was 23 years old, what would be some ways to say, grow up a little bit, but don't grow up too fast? What would you say?
My father would always say, make sure you're taking care of what needs to be taken care of. It's funny, I understood, but I never put it into practice until I got on my own and started doing stuff myself. And it kind of helped, football can help with that, but make sure that you're doing what you need to do and you're taking care of your priorities, and then everything else will come. And I'm 40 years old and I'm still trying to figure that out. There are days where, and we'll probably talk about it a little later, there's days I'd rather play video games than paperwork I need to do. But it's about having more of the more productive days than the less productive days. And for the person who's just coming in, I would say earn the respect first, and then the humor can come. No one. I'd rather be laughed with than laughed at. So if I'm coming into a situation, like it could easily, if I came in when we were working together, if I came in a situation and I'm not doing anything I need to do, then you guys just laughing at me. Oh, here he comes again, just talking, not doing on. So it's like there's no real respect going back and forth. There's no level of growth either way. So I would say just make sure you're on top of your game and doing what you need to do, and then the other stuff will come, which is the old man thing to say, but
we're old and we definitely get gems. I feel like I say things my dad said that. All right, so this is the segment of my show. I don't know if you're familiar. I call it Shot for Shot. So obviously, we're not taking shots. One? Yeah, I was about to say we're not taking shots.
I got some upstairs.
Yeah, you run upstairs real quick. Scavenger hunt. Find a bottle of tequila. So with that being said, you get to ask me any random question relates to this or not. I get to ask you any random question. You want to go first? I'll go first.
You go first.
All right. So what is our funniest moment together?
Hold on, together. Our funniest moment together.
Yeah.
Oh, there were a lot. Our funniest, it was together, but we weren't together. Our funniest moment was we were out at a friend's house, and I watched you get into a wrestling match with a guy who would later go on to wrestle a tree. And then watching it whole.
Time out. Yo, what was this? Whose house was this? Go ahead. You go ahead and say it.
We were at Lindsay's house.
Who was I wrestling at? Hillary?
Sean.
Yo.
Because I remember. Okay, I remember he made me drink. Because I walked in, he made me drink was called a turkey fart.
Yes, I did. That's not. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about. Yeah, Sean. Wrestling Sean.
Yeah.
That's the hot sauce in wild turkey.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you guys broke Lindsay's stool. And it was funny because.
Talking about the house in Springfield.
Yes.
Oh, that was. I had a high top.
I think you did. I was gone. I'd had too many beverages, but I remember watching. And when she came in really upset. And the funny thing was, everybody knew what happened, but nobody said a word. And you're literally standing by this broken stool, and looking at her like, which is what. That's when I think of Phil, I think of this.
Oh,
and that was the funniest thing. And again, it was just me just sitting back watching. But whenever I think of you, I think of that moment and how funny it was, because it was, hey, you invited us here. You knew what was going to happen.
First of all, that's one. And two, shout out to everyone that didn't snitch on me.
Oh, no.
Knowing good well, y'all all saw me do it.
Oh, yeah. I was like, man, I'd be mad. But it was funny. And again, he later went on that night to wrestle a tree. So.
Oh, man. Growth, y'all. I don't do that no more. All right. So here's okay, you got your question for me.
My question for you is, what was your honest thought of me as a leader and how I handled the whole 204 situation?
I'll be totally transparent. This is not because I'm on the podcast. I'm not going to put other names, but you were the best leader that we did. Flat out. This is not because you're on a podcast. This is not because you're my friend. Because we became friends. I feel like we became closer, or I could be a little bit more, because you weren't, the boundaries of being my supervisor is gone. We actually hung out or became more friends afterwards, going to the tailgate and Redskins stuff. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, I like I said, that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, was that you were one person where you said that you had the competency, you took it serious, you were about your business, but you weren't mean and you weren't condescending. And like literally, I literally was like, this dude, he liked me enough, and I think that translates earlier. Like I didn't realize that was such a growing moment for my job, but I really thought that, I have a hard time with boundaries, and not in a bad way. I'm saying I have a hard time with saying, like, okay, this is supposed to be my boss. I'm not supposed to be friends with my boss. I'm not supposed to like them. You know what I meant, like them and all that.
Yeah.
But I would say this. Up in my career, I was like, man, that's like a whole bunch of, societal boundary things. Like, who says I can't really enjoy the presence of my boss or laugh at my boss? As long as both ways, as you said. One, I respect boundaries. Like when the boss says something, yes, no, doing it. I trust your leadership. I'm not going to take advantage of your leadership and, coerce you to do things because we're friends. That's one. And two is that, like, I know that you have my best interest. Like best leaders can't say, yo, do this, I will do it. And I know it's because you want me to do something, not because you're a finger wagger. So from that early on, you and then my current supervisor now, and certain bosses I've had over time, some I've had, like, I don't want to talk to this, I definitely do not like this person. We're not friends. We're not. But you set the tone early, where I was like, okay, I'm learning a little bit about balance and respect and hierarchy, but at the same time, I'm also viewing you as a human being. Like, you're in the trenches with me. And I think the best leaders do that. I've had leaders now that was like, I have leaders now that said, I will not tell you to do something I wouldn't do. Like, I'm not going to do it though, because I was like, I'm not going to do it because I got like 10 other things to do. So my role is to tell you to do it because I trust you to do it. But if I wasn't here, if you weren't here, I would do it. I had to. But that's the best leaders. I think those are the best leaders. So I'm glad I got a good start. I ain't gonna lie though, I didn't leave APTS because of you and your leadership. I left because that job was tough as hell. No, and I wanted to go to grad school.
I will say you.
So I would stay there longer, but no, it was hard for me to go. I think
you were one of the reasons that I went to grad school and got everything, because I was like, you know what, I could sit here, but I need to do something different. And it was like watching you and the trajectory of your career and everything, and watching how you went from this guy who, when I first hired him, was just the guy who would snicker in the corner and say weird stuff, and I'm like, okay, all right, we need to figure something out. So now this guy who's got a podcast and got a beautiful family and successful, all this stuff. It's one of those things, and it's good as a person who was in management for as long as I was, seeing people who you gave jobs to and you were able to, and see them do well is always a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, like that, like I said, I credit APTS for a lot of things. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have gotten into grad school without APTS because it wasn't a GRE requirement. They said, please tell us times that you served the community and all that stuff. So I used my experience. They're like, wow, that's great experience. So it really helped open the door. And then, from that grad school program, Luis went into the same program as me. Luis Sosa went to the grad school that I went to. And Hillard, same exact program.
I did too. No, not did. I went to special ed.
You went to Mason. You went to Mason. A lot of people went to Mason, though. I ain't gonna lie. A lot of people went to Mason, but for the counseling program, me, Hillard, and Luis did that.
I went special ed.
But you went special ed, and a bunch of people. Ryan. I think did Ryan go? Some other people.
Ryan special ed with me.
Pete went to Mason as well. What's her name? Why am I blanking on her name? She works at a school in Springfield now. Oh gosh. Well, I know Mel went and finished up school.
There was a bunch of people.
Yeah, we can name everybody, but like literally, it was a great great starting ground to establish education, establish that you're interested in helping people, establish that you wanted to do something more. But like at a certain time, you're like, I need to go back to school. But as I said, running back to your question.
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Oh, well, I'm still talking. I think your phone died. Your thing died. So I would say that you're a good leader, and that for someone that was 23, I think you were good to start. I needed someone like that. I can't imagine another leader at that point in my life. Maybe, I needed someone that had a balance because I think I would have gotten a lot more trouble.
Oh yeah, you were. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have gotten a lot more trouble if I didn't have like now I'm looking at it like in hindsight about plan. I needed to have a certain leader like that when I was young and immature, and now I'm older and slightly less immature, and I got a new leader. But I think it's great, so I appreciate it. I was about to say I thought your funniest story, I was going to share it anyway, was the time that me and you was at the Redskin tailgate, and I got carried by Chief on a scooter as I asked for his autograph. He looked me dead in my face and said, "Gotta go," and drove off in slow motion. I'd never seen someone drive off. But
he honked his horn though. So gotta go. Meet.
Yeah. So I never seen that before. So
I didn't think you want to relive that terrible time in your life.
Right. So that's it. So well, we're at the end of the episode. For the listeners, can you share your social media and all the things that you want to do? And then, so this is the part of the show, shout outs and plugs. So please shout out anyone that you want to shout out, and then please provide plugs, anything where they can follow you.
Honestly, I have no idea what any of my social medias are. Okay. I can go to them.
All right. All right, there it is. Then shout out.
If anybody actually wants to, just look for Rashad Harris. Okay. I want to say I think 2 shout outs. One is to Jennifer Lacey, one of my closest friends. Pete Lacey passed away in 2020, and just watching her, she's one of the strongest people that I know. Being able to take something that was so sudden and watch everything crumble, pick up the pieces and start to put it back together and keep everything going almost like nothing ever happened, is one of those things I find very commendable, and I just want to give her a shout out. So that, and my wife, I call her my agent. I would never be able to get anything done if it wasn't for her. So yeah, Miss Deanne Harris. She'll never hear this because she doesn't listen to podcasts.
There you go. Shout out.
Shout out to her. And lastly, shout out to you. I think we've been trying to put this together for almost 2 years.
Yeah, I'm persistent.
But I give you a shout out, one, because I think the podcast is great. It's actually one of the podcasts I have in my rotation to listen to. So it's always good to hear you and to hear the progression you've made from when you started to where you are now doing this. But also the way you use your platform to motivate people. You keep me motivated. I know it may not look like I'm very, well, people can't see me, but I'm looking very shabby right now. But
no, you see the shadow, man. I look like I'm homeless.
just watching you, and again, we watch people through social media, so you only see whatever representation they put up there. Yeah. But just watching you and knowing you, how much of a family man you are, great husband, great father, all the things that you do. I've actually gotten more comfortable. I didn't do Toastmasters, but I've gotten more comfortable talking because one of the things I do in my job is a lot of trainings in front of staff. So one of my jobs, I had to go in, I had to do trainings on certain days with the whole Fairfax County, all the teachers and all that stuff. So just going and putting myself in situations where I have to talk to people and have to be able to express myself and not come across as the blubbering idiot I feel like I am as I'm talking, I'm going through things. But just watching you do that, and again, just seeing the progression that you had. Like I said, when I first met you, it was, I don't know if he'll make it.
Yeah. I mean, fact. Speak it, man. Like, no, like I appreciate you saying that, because like if I can go back and look at my fly on the wall, like, dog, I was a kid, bro. Like, God, that's my first job. I look back in hindsight, I'm very blessed that was my first job out of college.
And it was like when you left, I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss him.
I might do it. I might make it.
He's gonna do great things. And lastly, I know we didn't talk about it, but for anyone who, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people know about this because it's very popular, who likes comic books and things like me, but I never read them because I don't have the time. I follow this guy on YouTube, Comic Storian. I've said it a couple of times. It's spelled, I don't know how to spell it, but it's Comic Storian. And he literally goes and takes popular comics and reads them and then just tells you about them. So what I've done, I've been able to go and listen to it and go back and think, okay, I like this, now I can get that arc and come and do it and read it from there. But that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, Rashad, this is dope. It's totally worth 2 years to be bothered. Definitely worth it. Definitely share some gems. And hopefully, we'll do this again. We'll definitely, when social distance is done and this life is over, we'll work it. When this COVID life is over, we'll get together.
Yes, because I've been wanting to get together.
That's long overdue as well.
Yeah, I want to get together and have a bourbon tasting because I've actually gotten to it a lot more. So I'd like to get together and get your thoughts on some things.
It tastes good, alcohol. So we're definitely gonna do that. And like I said, anyone, please, follow this advice and tips. Now, if you like this episode, please share it with a family and friends. If you want to leave a voicemail for the podcast, it's 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. Share positively with the movement. Thank you so much, Rashad, for being on the show. And
thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.